Niger, the landlocked neighbor of Nigeria to the north, now in the throes of a coup d'etat, to the chagrin of the Regional Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and other countries further afield, who not only want President Mohamed Bazoum reinstated quick, fast, and in a hurry, but democracy to reign supreme. That's our focus on Special Report.
It wasn't the first military coup in Niger since she became independent of France in 1960. It's the fifth time, and coming in a period of challenges, both economic and security-wise, for this republic bordered by Libya to its northeast, Chad to its east, Nigeria to its south, Benin and Burkina Faso to its southwest, Mali to its west, and Algeria to its northwest, is pretty much surrounded by these countries, with 80% of its land area in the Sahara. And who will be first affected by any upheaval in the country but the people? Predominantly Muslim by religion, the rich history of Niger predates the colonial era to discoveries traced to thousands of years before Christ in the Agadez region of prehistoric finds through the Middle Paleolithic era, the Neolithic era, a blossoming of societies of the Bura culture, the Mali Empire, the Kanem Bornu Empire, the Hausa kingdoms, the Dosso kingdoms, the Dendi kingdoms, without which a reference to Mali history will be incomplete. The French colonialism before civilian administrations that have had to contend with economic concerns and jihadism. Abdurrahmani Tishani, a commander of the Presidential Guard, now the President of the National Council for Safeguard of the Homeland, having served in his former capacity since 2011, he played a key role in the coup and detaining President Mohamed Bazoum, the first Arab president of Niger in its history, from Arab minority Ould Slimani people who came to power in 2021 after winning the presidential elections in April of that year. The Kanu Dala inland dry port, which kicked off business activities last year, has begun to receive cargoes around the country and neighboring countries, which includes Niger. Since the coup in neighboring Niger on the takeover of the civilian government of President Mohamed Bazoum, the port has been experiencing crippled economic activities. Managing Director of the Inland Dry Port has described the military takeover as obsolete and says Nigeria will be at a disadvantage in terms of doing business. He adds that the president is strong enough as Nigeria is one of the strongest ECOWAS nations and should pay attention to the National Assembly on military intervention.
Having the accident of military takeover in the Republic of Niger, our neighbor, with which we share too many things. Nigeria and Niger have similar people in all respects. It has the longest land border linkages with Nigeria. About 7 or 8 states have borders with Nigeria. In Nigeria, have borders with Niger Republic. And the people are the same, speaking Kanuri, speaking Hausa, speaking Fulfulde, speaking all the languages in Nigeria. So Nigeria has to appreciate our bond, our linkages with Niger. Anything that happens to Niger will rub off on us, will suffer the most because we have more people. Any loss of 100 naira by Niger will be a loss of over 100,000 to Nigeria. So I call on the government, the state assemblies in all the states of the Federation, the members of our National Assembly and members of the Senate to also call on the presidency through a strong voice to restore full diplomacy with Niger Republic. They can pass motions and they can call on the president to do it and insist that the president must open all the land borders, must allow our trade as has been going on, must also allow continuous supply of electricity and allow life to resume in peace. What we have and we are losing now, the number of trailers with our containers by the borders in Niger, is causing untold hardship, loss of man hours, losses in great ways that our factories that needed some of these things to come and be used as raw materials and think that we need to put in the market and sell and recover the money. The bank, for instance, is not going to say that it's war with Niger. You have not paid me 1 month. interest I'm waiving it. No, you will pay that interest. And as we know, if you borrow money from a bank, it is only 2.5 years, that money will double. Now, if you are not able to get double profit, there is no way you can survive.
It's the second extraordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the ECOWAS taking place at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. The focus of this meeting is the political solution in Niger Republic, following the expiration of a 7-day ultimatum earlier given for the return of democratic rule to Niger. The chairperson of ECOWAS welcomes the members with an outline of the efforts by the bloc, including sanctions and mediation efforts that are yet to yield results. He advocates more diplomatic efforts and dialogue.
It is crucial that we prioritize diplomatic negotiations and dialogue as the bedrock of our approach. We did. And we still look to engage the party involved, including the Coup leaders, in honest discussion to convince them to relinquish power as suggested.
The body goes into a closed-door session to review the developments since this last meeting. Hours later, the doors are thrown open. The chairperson gives his closing remarks. He iterates that all options will be considered in ensuring a peaceful resolution of the situation.
No option is taken off the table, including the use of force as a last resort. If we don't do it, no one else will do it for us.
It's time for the reading of the communique.
Uphold all measures and principles agreed upon by the extraordinary summit held on Niger on 30th July 2023. Underscore the determination of the ECOWAS authority to keep all options on the table for the peaceful resolution of the crisis. Enforce all measures, in particular border closures and strict travel bans and assets freeze, on all persons or groups of individuals whose actions hinder all peaceful efforts aimed at ensuring the smooth and complete restoration of constitutional order. Direct the Committee of the Chief of Defense Staff to activate the ECOWAS standby force with all its elements immediately. Order the deployment of the ECOWAS standby force to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger.
ECOWAS is urging the African Union to endorse their decisions while asking partner countries and institutions, including the UN, for support to ensure a quick restoration of constitutional order in Niger Republic. Some of the presidents later make clear their resolve in the matter.
ECOWAS cannot accept this. This is not a matter of Nigeria against Niger, not at all. The decision that we have made today, and I hope it will be implemented immediately, is a decision of ECOWAS. All the head of states think that we have tried dialogue with the putsch of Niger. I personally consider this as a terrorist act, and we cannot let this continue. We have to act. The position of Côte d'Ivoire, which has been endorsed by all of the head of states, and that we have been able to tell these putschists that their place is in the barracks.
Well, if we had made mistakes in the past, we should try to correct it now. There is always a time to get started. I think it was a mistake not to have taken action previously, but now that we are together on this, we should take action to make sure that it does not continue.
Nigeria's main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, is also advising President Bola Tinubu to jettison the thought of engaging in a war with the Republic of Niger as a way of restoring democratic governance in the country. Chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, Governor Bala Mohammed, told journalists after a meeting of PDP chieftains in Abuja. The meeting, which was held behind closed doors, had the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, and his running mate, Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, in attendance. The PDP is asking President Tinubu to cut down the cost of governance also by reducing the number of ministerial appointees.
At the end of the meeting, the following communique was issued. 1. The meeting emphasized the need for party discipline and reiterated zero tolerance for anti-party activities and sabotage. No individual or group of individuals will be allowed to undermine the unity of the party and its processes. 2. The meeting committed to repositioning and stabilizing the party. To this end, the healing and reconciliation process are in progress, and I am happy to report that they are yielding results. The meeting counselled the federal government to show leadership in curtailing the cost of governance. 47 ministers and several special advisors and assistants would be reduced to ensure the health of our economy by reducing cost. Number 8, the meeting advised the President, Commander-in-Chief, and the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria not to go into any form of war with the Republic of Niger over the recent military coup in the country. Rather, all tools and dialogues through the diplomatic means should be explored.
President Bola Tinubu has written to the Senate seeking the support of the National Assembly to implement the resolutions of the ECOWAS Extraordinary Summit of Heads of State and Governments after his meeting on July 30th to discuss the overthrow of the Nigerian President Mohamed Bazoum. Senate President Godswill Akpabio read the letter from President Tinubu during plenary. In the letter, President Tinubu highlighted the resolutions reached by ECOWAS.
Request for support in the implementation of the resolutions of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, on the political situation in Niger Republic. Accordingly, the distinguished Senate is invited to note the following and the following actions expected of ministries, extra-ministerial departments and agencies, including military and paramilitary agencies. These actions include 1. Closure and monitoring of all land borders with Niger Republic and reactivation of the border drill exercise. Cutting off electricity supply to Niger Republic. Preventing the operation of commercial and special flights into and from Niger Republic. Blockade of goods in transit to Niger Republic, especially from Lagos and the eastern seaports. Military build-up and deployment of personnel for military intervention to enforce compliance of the military junta, to enforce compliance by the military junta in Niger should they remain recalcitrant. Freezing assets of state enterprises and parastatals in commercial banks.
The federal government ordered the immediate closure of all land borders with Niger Republic, with immediate effect over the current political instability in Niger. The policy, according to the Acting Controller General of the Nigeria Customs Service, Bashir Adini, is in the best interest of the two neighboring countries. Ms. Adini, who was in the Jibia border, Katsina State, to monitor the level of compliance, explains that the federal government has directed all relevant stakeholders in the border management to ensure full compliance and blockage of the borders. He describes the current security atmosphere in Niger as one that does not allow trade to flourish. He is also impressed with the level of compliance in most of the border stations he visited thus far. He also announced that the service has deployed officers and men attached to the Joint Operations Team in the form of border drill to implement the policy across all porous border areas.
We all know that trade cannot happen in an environment where there is no peace. So the intention of government is to ensure that we leverage perfectly on the nexus between trade and security. The situation that is happening in our neighbors is such that trade cannot thrive. And so the ECOWAS sets of states has therefore decided, in reaction to what is happening, that has strengthened the peace of not just the country, but has the potential to affect the stability, the political stability of the sub-region, has decided that we should cease trading with our neighbor, the Republic of Niger. This is why the decision to close the land borders with this country has been taken, and my mission here is to restate the directive of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, not just as the Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but also as the Chairman of ECOWAS, that has decided in their wisdom that one of the things we needed to do was to close the border.
No move taken by the Nigerian government, for example, as part of the regional bloc, has been taken in isolation. What I mean by that is that the Nigerian government has acted on the authority provided by the consensus position taken by the bloc itself, by all members of the ECOWAS heads of state.
Met and deliberated on the political situation.
The ECOWAS Committee of Heads of Defense Staff have wrapped up the extraordinary meeting in Abuja with a commitment to prioritize diplomacy as they sought to restore democratic order in Niger Republic. The committee was deliberating at the time on the political crisis, working towards a resolution within the 7-day ultimatum issued by the ECOWAS leadership at that time. Before the expiration of the 7-day ultimatum earlier issued by the authority of ECOWAS heads of state and government, the ECOWAS Committee of Chief of Defense Staff are concluding deliberations on the next line of action. The ECOWAS military chiefs say dialogue and negotiations are the forefront of the approach. Aside from condemning the action of the coup plotters, they commit to combating threats to democracy on the continent.
We have acknowledged the need for a comprehensive approach that encompasses political, security, and diplomatic dimensions. It is imperative that we translate our deliberations into concrete actions that effectively address the crisis and prevent a recurrence in the future. ECOWAS will not be used for coups. Democracy is what we stand for, and democracy is what we sustain. We must intensify our diplomatic efforts to engage with all relevant stakeholders. Dialogue and negotiations should be at the forefront of our approach in resolving the crisis in the Republic of Niger. I'm happy that has been done and that has been carried out.
The Commission of Political Affairs and Regional Security at the ECOWAS Commission explains that several measures are being taken by the regional body to negotiate with the junta, stating the regional bloc's determination to ensure democratically backed governments are not truncated by unconstitutional means. However, military action to restore civil governance is not a priority for the Commission.
No one be left in doubt about the determination of the heads of state and government of the ECOWAS about the need to put an end to the military coup contagion, which, if not stopped today, nobody will know when it is going to end. There is a steely determination by our heads of state and government to put an end to it and to make an example of Niger, to make sure that never again are we going to allow the disruption of the region's move towards democratic consolidation in our region. That is the determination.
The defense chiefs also pledged to strengthen the regional security architecture to effectively combat threats within the region. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Adamu Lamua, says the ECOWAS, led by its chairman, President Bola Tinubu, is committed to restoring peace and stability to Nigerians. He stated this at a press briefing attended by heads of diplomatic missions and other international organizations on the political situation in the Republic of Niger Republic, where he highlights some efforts by ECOWAS aimed at arriving at an agreeable resolution to the crisis. He also noted actions taken thus far by the authority aimed at pleasuring the plotters of the coup, which started on July 26 to restore stability and constitutional order. He says the authority welcomes the immediate condemnation of the coup by international community and that Nigeria calls upon the international community to remain resolute and continue to show solidarity to ECOWAS for democratic rule over dictatorship.
The steps so far taken by ECOWAS authority demonstrate the reality in the region that the worst form of democracy is still better than the best military dictatorship. Likewise, the condemnation of the coup in Niger by the international community is a welcome development. The swift reaction by the international community is a huge testimony to the preference for democracy and constitutional rule to any form of governance. Consequently, Nigeria and indeed ECOWAS calls upon the international community to remain resolute on that stance and continue to show solidarity with ECOWAS for affirming the superiority of democratic and constitutional rule over dictatorship. Our immediate concern remains for the people of Niger, who deserve peace, security, and the right to choose their leaders through transparent and fair elections. We call upon the perpetrators of this coup to step back, respect the rule of law, and engage in peaceful dialogue to resolve whatever grievances they may have.
Dr. Tony Agwans, a senior lecturer, Anglo-Ruskin University, London.
Mr. Agwans, now that we know that we're at this critical juncture in Niger, tell us your initial overview of the situation when you heard that this coup, the 5th in the history of the country, has occurred again.
Thank you, Olumide, for that question. When, on the 26th, the news filtered in about the coup in Niger, I wasn't surprised, to be honest, because there were signs that this was going to happen. Because when you look at the way democracy is practiced, especially in Africa, you will agree with me that things like this will keep happening from time to time. But I'm not justifying military incursion into democratic governance by any stretch, but this was always going to happen. It was always going, it was coming. Because when you look at the time that President Mohamed Bazoum was elected, there were issues with the elections. The candidate that lost wasn't happy. A lot of Nigerians were not happy. So, and then when you look at the situation in Niger Republic, the human index, poverty, insecurity, corruption, so all those are issues that are present in that country.
The commander of the Presidential Guard, who turns out to be spearheading this coup, is someone who's been in that saddle since 2011. Obviously, his loyalty was not questioned since then, and he served other presidents apart from President Bazoum. What do you think was the game changer for him to decide to go this route, knowing that he has been instrumental in foiling other coups before this one, but this time he's the one at the helm of this particular incident?
Yeah, I think for the head of the Presidential Guard, Brigadier General Chiani, the report available says he was about to, I think he was to be retired on the 27th of July. And then he and his group did what they did the day before. So there were obviously some, intrigues and infighting within the top military brass in Niger. And let's not forget that General Chianin is not the most senior ranking military officer in Niger Republic. As a brigadier general, he's just a one-star general. So there are 4-star generals in Niger. And when you look at what eventually played out, analysts like myself, we are still, looking at, is it that somebody else is going to take over from him as we move along? Because when this takeover by the junta was announced, there was this fear that the military was not going to go with it, the other arms of the military. So this was something that was done by the Presidential Guard in the Presidential Palace. But I think later that night, probably there were communication between both sides, and then the military went with it. So it is a case of power play and high politicking even within the military brass. Let's not also forget that there are some civilians within the Nigerian political elite who are also not happy.
What, therefore, is your estimation of the implication of the standby force of ECOWAS being a last resort, not excluding the use of force as has been propounded by ECOWAS in this conflict, given the closeness of Nigeria to Niger and the clarion call of the northern leaders of Nigeria saying that that should not be an option on the table for the resolution of this conflict, for a myriad of reasons, of which that is one.
Yes, you are right there. Military intervention should be off the table. But for the sake of brinkmanship and show off, and like we say in local parlance, bravado and all that, ECOWAS can, be chanting they will invade and all that. But let's be honest, even from the Russia-Ukraine scenario, nobody in West Africa, no country in West Africa is prepared for war, because everybody is reeling because of the situation of the global economy. And if you look at Nigeria, that is going to bear the brunt of this military intervention, excuse me, Nigeria, Nigeria has not been able to solve its own security problems. When I look at the Nigerian military, they look drained, they look tired, because in the last 14, 15 years, our military have been battling with insurgents in the northern part of the country, northeast, northwest, north central. So everywhere up north, Boko Haram and all that. And our army, the Nigerian military, is overstretched. So we don't think Nigeria should be going into a military intervention at this time.
Reservations about military intervention remain rife, while disposition of protection of democratic institutions sacrosanct. But in reality, is it a different story? The answer may lie not in just whether democracy exists, but how it's preserved, and whether the majority of people enjoy its dividends, especially our neighbors. Because after all, the only difference between Nigerian and Nigerian is the letter E. For Special Report, I'm Olumide Macaulay.